Donttap presents The Couch vs. the Coach, a new podcast that pits your favorite capper against your favorite coach. The hardcore versus the fighter, the homework versus the real work. They go head-to-head making picks and you benefit.
Huge fan of you. Number two, if you don't know Callum, he does a lot for the community, especially regional fighters. Like, he's been helping us for a long time.
Love it. And you've supported me for a while, Cal. I see you put your name Cal, so I'll call you Cal. So it's great to meet you face to face too.
I appreciate it. Appreciate to have you on. And the one thing that you've done so well, especially in this past year, is carve out your niche in the MMA market. You have your Remember the Show going. You have now, I mean, you even did commentating as well too. You're even jumping in on the Anik Squared podcast as well too. So it's great to see you sort of finding your stride in that in the niche in the market. So. Okay, so let's set it up right now. We have the couch versus the coach. The whole idea is we have MMA enthusiasts, MMA cappers, YouTubers, creators going up against people that are doing the real work. But there is some respect in the work that people do with watching sports all the time. Even if they don't get in there all the time, they can understand by dissecting tape and definitely come in here with angles. So first and foremost, Mike Malott, you come in here with a 5-point win last week. Amin Zahabi, a huge 3-point play last week, man. He called it. You said he's at that level. There's not finding a way. Like, it's his fight as much as it's the other guys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Amin Zahabi's a beast. I feel like he was overlooked a lot. You said it best last week. Like, it was almost disrespectful, that betting line, him going in. Like, Boshrot is a killer, no doubt, but Zahabi's a killer too, man. I was shocked to see that he was that big of an underdog winning that fight.
And I want to thank you because we did have Billy Briz on the Donttap podcast. He had picked on the other side of that card, and that was part of our parlay. But I tailed the shit out of your sort of suggestion. Zahabi cashed plus 560 on one book, plus 601 on the other. Absolutely crazy. So great win there. But let's jump right in right now because I know that time is of the essence. Couch versus the coach, you come with 3 top plays for the upcoming card. If your pick is anywhere from -101 or chalkier, that's worth 1 point. If it is actually higher than that, so up to plus 199, you're going to get 2 points. If you're going to go any higher than plus 199 on your picks, so like Zahabi last week, you get 3 points. Now, Jason, you can, if you want to if you're looking at Mike's picks and you have a pick that you're really, really heavy on and you want to actually even look at a future prop or a prop that's out already, you can hit one of those as well too. So we will dig in right now. And Mike, you are the champion, so I'm going to let you either play first or pass it on to Jason.
I will let our boy Jason get us started.
Let's go.
I say, right, for you, Mike, like, picking fights is always tough for a fighter. Like, I know my brother John on his podcast with Kenny Florian. Kenny, and he has to pick fights every week, still hates picking fights. It's like, no matter what, Mike, when you're picking against someone on this roster that you could be facing. So I always have respect for fighters that have to make picks. And I'm very excited to make picks because I almost never make picks for obvious reasons. My brother back in the day made some picks on a show that was quickly 86. So I'm happy to sort of get this first selection. So for me, right, this betting line sort of surprised me a little bit. So it's the welterweight division, Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. So Della Maddalena, I saw today -162, Gilbert Burns plus 136. So Jack Della Maddalena, 27 years old, Gilbert Burns, his elder, 37 years old. Now, for those of you who don't know, I host a podcast with Bilal Muhammad, close friend of mine. Mike Malott may be my second favorite welterweight in the promotion next to my boy Bilal. But I think Gilbert Burns has a bad taste in his mouth after this fight against Bilal Muhammad. That was his last appearance all the way back May of last year. So even though he's 10 years the senior, this is in Gilbert Burns' backyard. And I think Gilbert Burns needs this fight if he is really going to sniff the title in any way, shape, or form. So I sort of like him as a slight dog plus 136. I liked him in this fight before I even looked at the betting line. If I had to guess, I would have thought it would have been close to a pick 'em. And I like Jack Della Maddalena. I was on that train, and I'm not suggesting necessarily that I'm off of that train. But I have some questions about his cardio. I didn't love his performance the last time out. He's won 2 straight by split decision. And I think this might be a situation where we sort of see the levels to the game here. Typically in situations where you have a young up-and-comer going against a guy who's sort of been there, I tend to go with the young up-and-comer. I think there's a crazy statistic where guys that are 35 years and older I think in either light heavyweight and down, the record is bananas for the sort of up and comer. But here, my number one play for this show, Gilbert Burns plus 136.
Yeah.
I like it. The lines moved a little bit. That's one of my plays on the podcast this week. I think Gilbert Burns hits really hard. And although they're thinking Jack Della Maddalena might sort of outpoint him and sort of basically run a distance game and then make him pay when he enters the pocket. We saw that again with Zabi last week. It's a sort of a similar setup and style that way. But then you have a high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner against a guy who in Magdalena, when he went up against Hafez took him down and made it look real sketchy. It was sketchy. That was a sketchy fight. So I don't know about what a high-level guy like Gilbert Burns could do to him. What do you think about this one, Malott?
Honestly, I'm kind of agreeing with Jason on this in that I think it's kind of a pick'em fight. So I think you just go with the dog, whoever the dog is in this fight. Like if I'm, as far as a betting line goes, I'd go with whoever the dog is because I think it's a really interesting fight. The Basil Hafez fight, I think, is a particularly interesting fight as far as comparison, where it's like a shorter, stockier, powerful guy who's looking to grapple, and we saw Maddalena struggle with that. I will say, however, Maddalena had a weird 2 weeks leading up to that fight where he was supposed to fight the week before. He had like 3 different opponents that week. He made weight. His opponent had a medical issue, so he couldn't fight. Then he had to do that all over again the next week. Like,
great point.
Did he look poorly in that fight because he went through all that shit or because he struggled against that style? So I think there's still like a lot of questions. Like, I'm not
great point
ready to
there.
write off that guy's grappling in that way. So I think this is just an interesting fight to answer those questions,
And that's one thing that you can answer that maybe me and Jason can't, because we can speculate what it's like to have to go through a reschedule or a weight cut, then a weight cut and whatever else. But you're a fighter. You understand what it is to go through weight cuts and get in there and fight. So I appreciate that flair on that. But I do see the value in Gilbert Burns. I think we're all sort of agreed on that. So that's a 2-point play put up in the air from Mr. Jason Anik. Okay, Mike, bringing away your first play, returning champion. What do you got?
All right. First things first. I'm going the same as I did last week. Paid off for me is betting with my heart. I'm betting with, first off, I'm going with Macy Barber winning against, I'm going to butcher her last name, but Caitlin Kutikajan.
And she's got a new last name. I was going to go Chukagian and not even worry about the new last name.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has the new last name locked in yet, so we can just say Chukagian. I'm okay with it for at least. We have like 1 week grace.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going Macy Barber. She's an old teammate of mine from Team Alpha Male. She's been like, a top prospect since she got signed on Contender Series. You see a lot of people that are, coming with that kind of hype, and, you wonder if they're going to let their talent get them to where they want to be. She's a super hard worker. She's not like that at all. She's a super hard worker. See her put back-to-back practices in at Alpha Male, where finish one super tough practice and go right into another with another coach. So I really like Macy Barber for this one.
Yeah, Macy Barber definitely has the pieces to beat Chukagian. Chukagian's going to look to stand on the outside and point her really, but does have some grappling chops. But I think Barber's hit a stride, man. Me and you have talked about this in depth, and I think you just sort of back all your friends and they're all good, don't get me wrong, but then they're all cashing. They're all winning. Alpha Male has had a great run the past little while, but Macy Barber definitely has, I think, the style and the mix-up in this fight to really – I have her actually on my ticket as a Macy Barber decision. She could potentially get this inside the distance, but I think decision plus 100, I like the value on that because I think she walks away with this one. Jason, what do you think?
Well, and it sort of leads me pretty well into my second play. But what I'll say about Macy Barber is I believe she's still only 25 years old, which surprises me. And we always thought, love the nickname The Future. I think it fits her better than Ian Gary. I love it. But still only 25 years old. And I think she's won 5 straight since losing to Grasso. She certainly wants that rematch back, that rematch to get that one back. I absolutely love sort of how she's grown. More of a woman than a girl now. Like, to me, she looks the part in a different way. And I think so for me, right? MMA can oftentimes be prohibitive from a gambling standpoint. For example, like Mateusz Gamrot against RDA, no disrespect to RDA, just very difficult for me to see RDA getting through Mateusz Gamrot at this stage. So for me, I'm just going to roll this, if you don't mind, into my second play, because I did have Macy Barber. My second play here is a 3-team parlay, because I think we have some fighters that are sort of prohibitive favorites where I have to throw them together to get any value. So Macy Barber, I'm with you there. Mateusz Gamrot was the other leg. It's a 3-team parlay. And I don't know if we want to talk about the main event yet, but Sean O'Malley is in my 3-team parlay. No matter how much I love Chito Vera, the person, the fighter. So that's a 3-team parlay for me at plus 148. Gamrot, Barber, O'Malley. We can certainly get back to the main event, but that's the 3-teamer as my second selection. Still in the plus money. I'm trying to get multiple points out of you here.
There you go,
man.
man.
And I think if Mike doesn't touch on the main event in any of his picks, then we'll hash that out quickly at the end, and we'll hash out about O'Malley, and we'll go over Chito Vera and see if he can crack
you really think I'm not ready to touch on the main event here, buddy? Dress the part. You think that's not one of my plays?
All right, we'll take it away then, Mr. Malott.
My second one, you know what? All right, let's just go straight to the main event then, since we already got
sure.
I'm going with my happy dad brother. I'm going with Sugar Sean O'Malley. Again, voting with or rolling with the boys, right? Like you said, I always vote for my guys, but I also think it's a good play. Like,
not literally
an absolute beast, and I don't look past him at all. Like, he's never been finished. He's super tough, but sometimes fights, I think fights can sometimes slip away a little bit, and Sean O'Malley is the kind of guy who will like jump on that, right? Whether he gets the stoppage or he just picks away at you, is a slick counter striker. He makes it look smooth and makes it look easy too, which like influences judges and the crowd. So I like that for Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, piggyback on that. I think he made it look pretty easy against Chito in their first fight until he got injured. And I was a little surprised watching it back earlier this week. So to me, physically, I think they look very good sort of as a physical matchup. But Sean O'Malley, to me, physically is a different guy than even he was back then. And I know Chito personally and like him very much. It'll be hard for me not to root for Chito. I also sat with O'Malley's family when he beat Aljo, and they couldn't have been nicer all night. So to me, it's like, there's so many great human beings around this world. So and especially this MMA world, it's very difficult for me to want to root against someone. But for me at O'Malley, it's really difficult for me to see him losing this matchup unless there's an injury or something like that. But yeah, Chito never been finished. You said it well. So yeah, I lean Sugar in the main event too.
Yeah. Big fan of Chito Vera, but it's his style. I mean, he didn't really need to change his style. It got him all the way to a championship, but his style makes fights. And Chris Prickett, coach of Niagara Top Team, has been in my ear with this one. It's the idea that styles make fights. Every time I talk to him, he sort of picks apart one of my picks. And this is a stylistic matchup that just Sugar Sean's footwork is just beautiful. His ability to open doors on angles and just enter the pot, like it's beautiful what he does. Yep. And I just think stylistically with a plodding forward Chito Vera and only a fight of really all this is a one adjustment. I think he just has to adjust to that leg kick, and I don't think there's anything else that's going to serve him a problem. It's going to be a volume game on a decision and or a finish. But yeah, I can't see the leg being an issue this time. I see him making the adjustment somehow, even if he has to grapple. So okay, next spot. I think we are 2 each. So we'll go to Jason. What's your final play of the day?
And I got to just go back when you said like picking with your heart, when Bilal Muhammad's making picks on our show, I know it's going to be with his heart. Like, he's not going to pick against his boys. You're not going to pick against your Canadian brethren.
Look, man, I'd rather be a good friend than a good bettor. So
exactly.
I'll as the fans, like, if you're taking my word for it, no, I am straight up biased. I am always going to be biased.
But they'll be conflicted listening to you because you're always cashing. So it's like they can want to try to fade you because you're biased, but everybody's winning. So
there we go.
And look, I mean, I love Joe Pyfer to get it done few weeks back more than anyone. And so that I don't bet MMA. I'm not legally prohibited from doing that like Mike and my brother, but I don't even want to. I don't like, it takes away my enjoyment from the fight. And now I'm betting against another guy who I like and have gotten to know and respect, but I'm going against Curtis Blades here. I'm betting on Jailton Almeida for my final selection. It's a pick'em fight in the heavyweight division. So Almeida 6-0 in the UFC, all finishes except for the fight against Derek Lewis, which was his last fight out. But he's just been more active. And this is sort of an example of sort of guys going in different directions. As much as I love Curtis Blades, and he has surprised us, hasn't been that active. Yeah, he beat Aspinall, but that was an injury to Aspinall. And then his last fight out lost to Sergey Pavlovich. That was April of last year. So we're almost a year out. And to me, Almeida, if it gets down there, which I know Blades, I'm fascinated to see how this fight takes place. But if it gets down there, I have a lot of confidence in Almeida to get something done, even though maybe Blades wants it to get down there. So I'm fascinated to look at this fight, but I see some value in a pick'em fight, sort of as a flip of a coin, but I lean the guy who I sort of see on that trajectory. So I'm going with Almeida for the big boys.
I think it's appropriately a pick'em fight. I don't know how that one's going to go, just because I would imagine the wrestling's going to heavily favor Curtis Blades. So I think Almeida might struggle to get on top. So I don't know how that one's going to play out. I think the biggest advantage is exactly what you said. Almeida's on a run. He's been looking incredible. He's been active, and Blades has had a loss, and then his last win was from an injury. So just like, it's been a while since he's gotten a legitimate win. But I'm not going to bet on that fight, but I'll be honest. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Curtis Blades steals this one. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think just the wrestling advantage might carry the fight for him, but I don't know. I don't know that one at all.
It's a difficult one, man. I've gone back and forth on that one. You put your cojones on the table with that one, Mr. Anik, because that one is definitely a volatile fight as far as sides. But I mean, at the same time, the momentum is a real thing, and the strength and the power and the domination of Jailton Almeida definitely there.
I'll be a classic fight fan after this, and just be Captain Hindsight and be like, well, of course that guy was going to win because of this. Like, I knew that if he did this, he would win. It's like, yeah, no shit.
Okay, Mike, bring your last spot to the table.
My last one is another close friend of mine, guy I'm close with. Of those, I've never met Sean, but he's the Happy Dad connection. Macy Barber's a friend of mine, but I've known Song Yadong for years. I first saw him come out when he was 19 to Team Alpha Male and was blown away by this kid. He is without a doubt one of the best martial artists and combat sports athletes I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. I trained him and cornered him for his Cheeto Vera fight, the Cheeto Vera win. He took that off the couch on 2 weeks' notice, like out of shape completely on 2 weeks' notice, and ended up squeaking out a really close decision against a super tough Cheeto Vera. I like Song Yadong for this fight. One, because he's an incredible martial artist, but I think he has a super tough fight ahead of him with Petr Yan. But to Anik's point with the Almeida fight, Song's on more of a run. Song's had a lot more success lately. Petr Yan has had the worst skid of his career. He's almost
what a
had
downfall that is.
Dude, some horrible, honestly, some of it horrible luck, some of it like a couple little tweaks and the guy might have still been champion at this, like it's been a weird, almost alternate reality, alternate universe, seeing how his career has unfolded at this point. But he's got another absolute killer in front of him in Song Yadong, and I think the way that they match up, some of this style matchup, I think favors Song. Song is an excellent boxer, and Petr Yan likes to box in the pocket. I think Yan, it's a 3-round fight, and Yan tends to let the first round sometimes get away from him. He can start a little bit slow, and Song comes out like a bat out of hell. This isn't a fight where I think Yan has the boxing advantage, and I don't think it's a fight where he has the power advantage. And those are things that he often relies on to back guys up and to break guys down with steady pressure and power and boxing prowess. I don't think he has that advantage in this fight. And Song's been working super hard on his wrestling, especially since the Cody Stamann fight. And I've seen massive leaps and bounds in growth in his grappling and wrestling game since that fight. So I don't see there being, I don't see the grappling being a major threat for him either. So I like Song in this fight.
Even though he might be a friend of yours, your analysis is spot on. I agree with every word out of your mouth. It's just fascinating for a guy like Petr Yan with that skill set, lost 3 in a row on the heels of losing a 4th straight potentially. And you get Song Yadong just turned 26 in this type of run. So I think all your points are well taken. Another just brutal matchup for me for Yan.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I think talking to you extensively about this, I mean, Team Alpha Male, this even before I started looking at this one, this is my top play of the week. I just think Team Alpha Male has been game planning for Yan for years, all the way back to was it Nakamura?
No, it was Yadong. It was Teruto Ishihara.
Yeah. So I mean, all the way back to then, they've been game planning for him, right? And I think there's a lot of people that I've sort of argued this point back and forth with or debated this fight on. They're saying that Yan might come out a little bit pissed off. Yan might come out a little bit aggressive. Well, if he does, he's going to get taken down. you know, if he plots forward a little bit too aggressively with his Muay Thai, he's going to get taken down. I think Song's wrestling very underrated. I've been following Team Alpha Male only online, obviously, pretty extensively because of you, Mike. And yeah, I think that he has the upside with the power. I think his boxing is solid. And the thing is, he doesn't go away. He can take a punch. And I mean, you don't want to hear that as a fighter, but he doesn't go away. He can go all the way through 5 rounds. He is probably one of the more underrated top 5 guys, I think, in any of the divisions that are around right now. Song Yudong, definitely a spot here. And I think the skid of Pyotr Yan is just, it's evident. It's unfortunate. Maybe some of it maybe a little bit self-inflicted. A lot of points taken away in fights and a lot of dirty approaches in some fights, not to say anything negative about him, but he sort of shot himself in the foot at times. So, but we are where we are, and I think that's a solid play as well, too. So, Mike, just to recap your picks, just say them quickly again.
Macy Barber, Sean O'Malley, Song Yudong.
So we got 1 point, 1 point, and a 2-point play for a dog there. So your total would be 4 points that you can get. And then Jason, you have two 2-point plays right out of the gate, I believe. So if you want to recap your plays, and then we'll recap the point.
Gilbert Burns straight, which plus 136, so that's a 2-pointer. Then the 3-team parlay at plus 148, that's a 2-pointer. Gamrot, O'Malley, Barber. And then the final selection, which is a pick'em, so probably 1 point. I think it's minus 110, Jalton Almeida. I didn't want to say it out loud. You know, Curtis Blade, I could see it going either way, but I'm not going to here to give you some minus 455 or anything like that.
Right.
You want to sweat it a little bit so you guys can DM each other back and forth and be like, okay, I'm about to beat your ass right now.
Exactly.
We'll be talking shit the whole fights, I'm sure, man.
And then, Mike, if you're looking at it, there was one fight I just want to hear you guys, even maybe both of you guys hash it out, just because I'm very curious about this one. It's Dustin Poirier sort of being undervalued, underappreciated, coming up against Benoit Saint Denis. I know that, you know, Jason, your brother's a huge fan of Saint Denis, but it just feels like the betting public has this forgetfulness. Like, if this was a year ago, this is not even the same conversation as far as what this line would be, how this would be approached. I get people sort of speculating the durability or the willingness to fight anymore of Poirier, but it's all speculative and fairy tales. And I don't understand how the line is reflective of that. What do you think of this fight, Mike?
Yeah, I think had I not had 3 people I'm connected to in certain ways on this card, that would have been one of my bets for sure is Poirier. Like, could Benoit Saint Denis beat Dustin Poirier? Of course, man. It's MMA. But do I think he should be a favorite for this fight? Like, absolutely not. I think Dustin Poirier's fought a who's list. He's super durable. He's good everywhere. Incredible experience in the cage. I think, like, it's almost like the you know, similar. It's just shocking to me that he's the underdog for this fight. Like, I think Saint Denis is a hot prospect and deserves to be given big opportunities, but I am very surprised to see that Poirier is the underdog for this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think all that's really well put, and I think the durability for me is sort of the key. Is Dustin Poirier has been in there with everybody, and I think he can be the nail a little bit, right? I think I understand that fresh head kick knockout up the hands of Justin Gaethje, or the feet, I should say. That definitely, I think, in some of the handicappers I talked to, has influenced the gambling line. You know, I think sort of a not necessarily too quick a turn for Poirier, but just sort of people wondering about the return after that, but not me, man. I'm on Poirier here. And you know, ultimately I don't bet MMA. So for this one, I just look at the competition that he's faced, regardless of Saint Denis. I know it's 5 straight finishes, but I don't think he's faced near the levels of competition Dustin has. So I like Dustin too.
Yeah, people talk durability. The dude took a shin to the side of the head. Like, it's not like he got knocked
durability.
out.
That's a shin to the head.
Yeah, you like almost anybody in the world's getting knocked out by that. Like, I don't think that's a fair assessment to say he's no longer durable. That guy's been one of the most durable guys in the world for such a long time. I mean, he got knocked out by Michael Johnson like 8 years ago or whatever it was. You could have said the same thing back then, like, oh, he might be on a slip, and then he's had his most successful days since then. Like, I don't 100%. Think it's fair. Yeah, I don't think.
I definitely agree. It's like durability really comes in the hands. It's like your fist-to-fist battle and anything else, like you know, how your body's durable and everything else. But a head kick's a head kick. Not everybody is Dan Hooker durable. You know, the man takes a baseball bat to the head and keeps going. So that's not even the same conversation. It's a head kick. It is what it is. And even getting caught by a head kick isn't an easy thing. If you're someone that like is in tune with your footwork and everything else, which Poirier is. He tends to close the distance and step inside head kicks. He rarely gets caught by shit like that. His style on the feet isn't even close to the same level. This could end up being like Zaleski DeSantos when St. Denis went up a weight class to 170 and got beat up, and the referee got fired and pulled out of the cage. That's my opinion. I just think the dog money is there, and I think it's a ridiculous line. Another Zahabi sort of disrespectful thing, but obviously at a higher level, higher name, and whatever else.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I think we've hit all of the spots. All I asked you two to do is build me a parlay, a two-piece between the two of you. So I'll let Jason take it away with his first piece of the parlay, and then Mike, you can drop yours in.
You know, it's tempting to make it juicy and throw Dustin Poirier in there because
I'm okay with that.
We all sort of feel that way. So I think I'm going to do that, but I will say I'm not going to be, I believe the hype when it comes to Benoit Saint-Denis. You can be sure. So there's not going to be any part of me that's surprised. My brother's on that hype train. I can't get enough Dustin Poirier. So he's the first leg of the parlay, plus 170. Diamond. Let's go.
Yeah.
Mike?
We're building one together?
Yeah, we're building one together. So first leg, Poirier.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna go just a boring co-main event and just go Dustin and Sean O'Malley. I think those are the two calls for the co-main and main event.
I like it.
I'm okay. I think O'Malley's a parlay piece, and I mean look at Josh Emmett. We had your teammate Kyle Nelson build a parlay with Josh Emmett. It was a 3-piece, and Josh Emmett was like a plus 180 and cashed huge with one of the worst knockouts I've ever seen in UFC history. That was a baseball crack.
I've been on the receiving end of that right hand. I understand how that man felt, dude. He cracked me. The first time I ever met him, he hit me with that overhand right. It was the first shot he landed on me. I was like, which one of you in this room just hit me like that? Because I know it couldn't have been this guy standing in front of me. We just went to war. Love that guy.
So, gentlemen, I absolutely really appreciate your time. I know you have to get on with your day. We have Jason, Anik, and Mike Malott. Mike, you're the returning champion. And the whole way this works is if you do win, Jason, you can return as a returning champion, or you can pass it off if you like, whatever you would like to do. But it's going to be a hard mountain to climb against Mr. Mike Malott.
Appreciate you, man. Great stuff.
Appreciate all of your time. Jason, I think everybody that watches me 1000% knows where to find you. But if you want to just sort of do an outro for yourself, and then Mike, you as well, too.
Yeah, best way to find me, Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel every week. I host a show with Bilal Muhammad. We're actually doing 3 shows here in Miami for extra rounds. So we're actually going to be at Grails in Miami, and we see that today. But we'll be at the arena Saturday before the event. So, but yeah, you be anywhere John Anik is, I'm sort of right behind those coattails a little bit.
Nice.
And Mike?
Yeah, I'm back on the grind, just plugging away. So the only way you're going to find me is just on my Instagram at Mike Malott, at Mike.Malott. So yeah, man, just back to business.
Mike Malott in there with Cruella, chip on his shoulder and beating the shit out of the pads. I'm excited. It's a beautiful part to the story. Once again, we still got to do an interview and talk, but it's a beautiful part of the story because the idea of your comeback and what you'll do with it, the mindset that you have and the way that you think and everything else, I'm excited to see the climb and you getting back in there and cracking that 15.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate you having me on. Thanks for joining me, Jason.
Proper. Always a pleasure. Cal, great to meet you, buddy.
Donttap podcast, The Couch versus the Coach.
This is why we created The Couch versus the Coach. Proper perspective.
Plus
What a
607.
dog cash.
A little bit
Congrats to
disrespectful.
Ayman Zahabi. Subscribe to Donttap on YouTube.
It's not find a way like it's, it's an amateur pro here, man. He's a solid fighter, dude. He's really good, Like even fights where he lost, like fought my boy Ricardo Ramos and got hit with that spinning elbow. Like he's looking good in that fight until so like he's a dude, the guy's good, man. Like I don't see it as like he's got to find some way to win. Like the guy's good, man.
I really like Zahabi. This is a hard fight for Basharat. Basharat also fights guys lower level. Like the Mendoza win, being as somewhat close as it was, is just a terrible look in hindsight. And honestly, I think Zahabi is much, much more skilled than Mendoza. And I think he's also much more technical in his striking, where he can set shots up, where even though Basharat does have a good chin, it just takes one. I don't know who's going to win exactly that fight, because I honestly would line it -2, -300 at most.